Hello everyone. We're almost done with the Squareness comparator surface gauge. You've seen parts of this. If you've been following the Instagram, you've probably been seeing a little bit more of the build. We're almost done. I have, let's see, I'll grab it a minute. I still have the nose piece that I got to grind, and then the slot in the front I got to put a radius on the back. And when that is done, I'm pretty certain that they'll be done. So really close to being done. But the thing came out really well. I'm excited about it. So I wanted to make a YouTube and share this with you guys just to see where it's at. We're going to build two of these units. One's going to be for Stan at Bandsaw Industrial for all of his effort and work that he puts in on putting the summer bash. And one will be used as a raffle. And we'll take the other one. Let me see if I can find that. We'll take this stationary one that we've built that you've seen in a lot of the videos. I'll clean some of the Dykem off on that, and we'll be giving that away in the raffle as well. And so when we leave for the bash, we'll have three of these Squareness comparator checks, two of the new styles, one of the old, and I won't have any until I get back. But as far as mine's already machined in heat treat, and it will take not too long, and I'll be able to get that done. But this instrument's going to be very important for the work that I do, and I need something that's good and accurate, something that's dependable, and I like these Noga arms without the adjustment. One of the things when you start working intense and less, you'll find if you use any kind of the fine adjust on the Noga bases that I've used, they're not quite repeatable. And if you get a real solid indicating base with an indicator that's good, you can indicate something in with the Noga and then follow it up with the other that's solid, and you'll probably see, depending on what style of adjustment they have, maybe even up to 5/10 out. And I've demonstrated this with friends many times in the past. Now that's not to knock Noga, because the way that arm works is fantastic. I love that. I just wanted something that I can have just a rock solid adjustment, something that feels good, something that's fine, something that works good and smooth, and I believe this is a ticket, and I'm excited about it. I love it. Right now I just have a 3/8 pin. It's about a 1/10 under the 3/8. I'll be grinding up just common dowel pins, and I'll grind them up, and they will fit nice and flush. But I can't do that quite yet, because what's going to happen is they're going to be a 2/10 or so press fit in both sides, and a slip fit in the center for this pivot arm. And so this works good. And before I get there, I'll just show you, even if there's a little wear, because this center hose here is actually a slip fit no shake for a 3/8 dowel pin, which is 2/10 bigger than this. So I already got, based on this, what would be factored in if I had 2/10 wear. But what we have in this base, we have these die springs in there, and then you have your pivot arm, and so you got the constant pressure pushing up. And then, as we showed in previous videos, and I don't know if Kathy can capture that, we ground so that we got just about an 1/8 inch here, about an 1/8 inch here, and an 1/8 inch on top, so that there's always a 2-point contact. So if there's any wear, it's always pushing up on the bottom. Plus it's ground real nice, a real nice fit for in this part of it. We got a real nice fit, so it works really good. And what I've done, I haven't side wheeled. I got me a CBN wheel coming in. I haven't side wheeled in a long time with stone wheeled, and I tell you what, once you side wheel using on your surface grinder using a CBN wheel, you'd never want to do it again with a stone wheel. So I struggled through this. I finally got it. But what I did when I machined these ones out, and I didn't do it on mine, so I'm going to do some hard milling on mine, I relieved this area right here so that I only have to grind this part and grind this part, and this will always stay engaged. So I got area right in here where it stay in contact, and it's ground so that it fits and it can slide. I plan on greasing this up and greasing that, and it'll be even better. But there's absolutely no shake that you can feel in there. So to get something especially sidewilling, grinding like that, it takes a little time. It's something you got to just be real careful with. So, but anyways, this is where we're at on this, and I just wanted to show you the functions, how nice this is. There's a lot of adjustment in here. I'll just get this up, and it's a real nice fine adjust. I mean, look how nice and smooth I can go with that. So I just love that adjustment. Also, look how rock solid that is. That needle's not moving anywhere, and I'm thumping this pretty darn hard. One of the other things I like too is the repeatability that you get with this. It's just really good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just start pulling this apart a little bit so you can see some of the items. We'll just go over it again. What I'll do is when I get ready to assemble these, I will Loctite this screw into the bottom so that, and it'll be shorter so that you can spin it on for any of the locations that you want. It'll be real fast. This is the part you've seen in one of our previous videos where we made that 3-point contact on the inside of the stem hole too. What I did is I just went ahead and reamed this, sent it out to heat treat. It was a nice fit before heat treat. It was a little bit looser after heat treat, but by having that 3-point contact and having the 2 points opposite the screws, by putting this is our 1032 screws, by putting pressure here and putting pressure here, I got a 3-point contact here, a 3-point contact here, and so even with a little bit of slop in there, this thing's rock solid. If I would have used a round hole and I had that much slip, and then I would have had a 2-point contact, and then that would have been a possibility where you could have had some movement error taking place. But anyhow, the Noga base, you just buy that, slide that in, or you can make whatever attachment for whatever kind of indicator stem that you prefer. It can go on there. So here's the part. You can see we got quite a bit of adjustment in there. And what we have is we have a thrust bearing. You've seen that in some of the previous videos when we were knurling these parts. Thrust bearing rides in there, and it rides on this surface of this I don't even got the names for half of this stuff right now, but anyways, this will ride in this chamfer. You got a 1/4 20 screw. There's clearance enough in there so that when this is all the way up, I still got clearance in there. And of course you got the die springs and the pivot arm, and so you can see there's quite a few components. Now one part I haven't shared with you yet is this right here. I got this. This is for your adjustment nut on the back, but it has to pivot as that angle changes. This has got to be able to move back and forth. And because I wanted smoothness in there, I had to come up with a way where that will pivot really smooth. And this might be hard to capture on film. I'll see if I can hold the angles up. And let me grab a scribe tool a minute so I can point some things out. And these are the scribers that Randy Richards made. He gave the family, he's been real kind to us, and he's made about 4 or 5 of these for different members of the family. I've already used it for some scribing, but believe it or not, I love this as a pointer. It works out real good for that. But anyhow, what I have over here is I have a pocket, and then if, can you see down where you can see where there's a 45-degree angle in there, Kathy, or do I got to turn this?
I don't know if they can see that or not.
Okay. But anyhow, what you...
Now I see it.
Okay. So anyhow, you have a pocket that this will fit in. And then what you have coming down at the bottom right here, you got a 45-degree chamfer. and you have one on the opposite side, and so that will catch along the edges of these pins at a tangent point. So when you have this in there, it pivots really free, real smooth. It works really slick. So that looks like it was probably some hard kind of fancy on a manual mill machining, but really it's not. I was showing my boys, even though this design seems complex, it's very simple. Basically, you got a small rectangle in the middle with this hole. You have a larger rectangle over here, and then you have your 245s that you just get you an end mill with a 45-degree tips on it, and you can just come through, and then again, just another rectangle move. And then what you have here is just a 3/16 that's widened out to about 200, and then you have just two rectangles with radius ends on it. So really, even though it looks kind of difficult, it's a very easy on a manual machine to do something like this. CNC obviously is easier, but on a manual machine it wasn't that bad at all. You just had to watch your numbers and what size end mills you had and everything. So, and if you do these as we will, we'll probably be doing a batch of 10 of these after we get back from the bash. I have to get some other projects out of the way, but this will be going on our product list that we'll be making. Right now it looks like that there'll be about $750 is what we're shooting for. There's a lot of components in here. The steel is a DC53. It's a very good high quality steel. So the steel is expensive, the heat treat is expensive. If I do cryogenics, which I didn't have time to do on these ones, that's an added cost to it. So the future ones that we are going to be selling will have cryogenics into it. But the first four of them, the two for Bar Z and two that I got to finish up, actually I got three, one for myself, and I'll have two others. Those didn't have the cryogenics. The cryogenics will just make it a little bit nicer product, a little bit wear resistant, a little more stable, but they'll work fine this way too. So, but anyhow, this is just, like I say, it's one of the tools that I'm excited about because it works so nice. It's at the prototype stage, and I'm loving it right now. Pretty excited about it. I just want to show you some of the things that we did for here. When I made this hole for this pivot, for this to ride in, I wanted that to be silky smooth in there so that it would ride easy. What I did, I just used a 82-degree countersink and plunged down in on there, and I'll show you what they'll look like before we do any work on them, because on my unit I haven't finished yet, and it looks pretty smooth over there for a countersink, but just trust me, it's rough. It's not near as smooth as what I have on this one. I have not really done any lapping pretty much in my career. I've seen Tom Lipton and Robin Renzini do a lot of it. I've talked with Robin Renzini in the past on the phone on lapping. I'll tell you what, you just spend a couple hours with him on the phone, and boy, you come back with quite the education. I really appreciate his kindness and his help there. But I'll show you what I've done in order to lap these out, as well as polish these up. So we're going to cut away. We're going to go to the mill, and we'll be back shortly. What I needed for polishing this is what they look like before polishing. Here's what they are after. What I needed an arbor to hold that, and I drilled and tapped these for a 3/8/16, and so instead of making something and taking a lot of time, I just grabbed a regular bolt, socket head bolt. I have a lot of these, and all I did was stick it in the electric drill, went up to the hand grinder, and I ground that head off. And so these are 371, 372. They'll fit right there in the collet. And then what you can do, I just put a nut on the back just to hold it in place. Plus I can adjust it wherever I want. You get it like so. Oh, I'm going to turn the three-phase generator on. It's not going to work without that. And so what I got, you know, some, I think it's 180 or 120, 220, 320 grit sandpaper. And I got the 320 grit right here. I think I'm going to get me some 400, 600 here pretty soon. But basically, you can come up and you can polish it with the sandpaper. Get her nice and smooth. Get all the tool marks, tool lines out of it. And then the other thing, I got some of this number 6 diamond compound. And I could use the green, but I was just using this on the finish for the other part, so I just sand it up, look pretty nice. Pop a little bit of that on the stick. Use that soft wood. The diamond will embed into that. It's and it will polish the part, which is the hardened steel. And you can see with just a short time what a nice polish that puts on. So that was pretty simple on there. You can turn it around, which I won't do on here. You can turn it around and then you can polish this surface. That's what the bearing's riding on, so you can get a nice surface there as well. For the other part, it was a little bit more difficult. What I did, let me clean this off so you can see it better. Again, when I did these holes, I just went through with a 82-degree countersink because it worked real simple. It doesn't matter. I just need an angle to make a tangent point with the radius. But it was kind of a rough surface, so what I did is I roughed this down in our lathes. I roughed it down at the 82-degree angle, and then I went to the grinder, and we'll show you the stages in that in a minute here. But then I could grind that. But this is just A2. It's soft. It's A2 drill rod. And then what I did first, you could take a piece of sandpaper. You got that slot that I had in there. You can wrap that around. And then what I did, I put super glue on there and glued it kind of around like that. And so I used that sandpaper first to go down in there and rough them holes out. And so I already done it on these, so I'm not going to reproduce it here. But after that, and then I used, I believe it was number 9, a green paste. Slowed this down. And again, I'm kind of new at lapping, so I may be doing some things wrong. If I am, you guys go ahead and chime in and let me know better ways. I'm always open to learning better, more efficient ways. I was spinning this quite fast to begin with, but it seemed like it worked better when I slowed it down. So what I could do at that point is I could just come in and just hold it down there and let it cut. Now these ones, they just had the green paste. I haven't done it with the orange diamond compound yet. But anyways, you would get in there, and you know, it takes a little bit for it to cut because that's some very fine grit on there. And but you could see it better on the parts that I finished up. These need more lapping. They're definitely not finished yet, but that's just kind of getting the start. But that's how I would lap that. Now what would happen from time to time, because I'm starting with a real rough surface to begin with, even with that sandpaper, it would wear uneven on the lap over here. And then also, when I wanted to change, like I started out with a green, and you can see I got some wear down in this area where I pulled down on it too hard on the previous part. But I had the grinder set up, And what's nice about this, I could just go in there and retouch this up and have a brand new surface. And that way, if I use the green diamond, I can grind that off, and then I can put the orange. And then if I wanted to go finer, I can grind that off. And so I can keep grinding and back as long as I want. I got a long part here, and so it worked out pretty good. I'll show you what we did on the grinder, how I got that set up. That was kind of interesting too. So we'll cut away and come back when over by the grinder. Okay, what we have set up here, you've seen us use our spin fixture on the grinder numerous times in the past. What I did, I set up a sine bar on the back when I originally set this up at 41 degrees, half of the 82, and I had to tweak it a little bit just to match the counterbore. So that took about 3 or 4 tries, but after that it was good. Once I had a good nice surface contact on everything, every time I needed to true it up, I would just come over here, and I already inked the end of it up. And all they have to do is come over here, and I'm not quite sure how close we are to the center, but I indicated the part in within a couple tenths off camera. Basically, I had some wear in it because I used it quite a bit. The angle's not that critical as long as I just got a tangent. So on the other parts, I had it dressed off. It was cutting good, but I worked on some few of the other things on there since then. But anyhow, you just come up and you grind, and now you got a new surface. So if I had some of the green lapping count embedded in there, and then I can grind it out. One thing that you want to do when you do this is you want to clean that slot out. If there's some green compound in there with the centrifugal force, it'll come out and mix it with orange, and that's not going to be a good combination. But anyways, you clean that out, you grind the 2 surfaces, or the angle on there, and now you can charge it with whatever lapping compound you want, and you're ready to go again. So that's how simple that was. We got a couple new things that are taking place over here. We just bought a new saw. If you was following us on Instagram, you've seen that, but we'll go over and we'll take a look at that now. Okay, well, this is the newest addition to the shop. This is a saw. It comes from Harbor Freight. This saw was, I think, it was priced at $899. We had a 20% coupon, and so it came out to, with taxes, I think it was $763.18, if I remember correctly. And so I know a lot of people, when it comes to Harbor Freight, they look at cheap stuff, chintzy stuff. I had my eyes on this saw for some time. I've seen some the other YouTube guys that bought the saw. They were happy with it, and I figured that if there's anything that's chintzy on there, I can repair myself. I got enough skills in the machining end. If I had to build new parts and stuff, I can. But it looks like the saw, based on some of the reviews, the people are pretty happy with it. I've only cut about 3 parts with it. So far it's good. Now the bandsaw blade that came with this was a carbon blade, so I didn't even cut anything with it. I just pulled that off, and I bought some Linux, and I bought 3 different blades. I bought an 8/12 pitch, so that it got, I think for 1 inch, 8 teeth, and the next inch, I think it is, it's got 12. And then I bought a 610, and then I bought one that I have to use on select material probably. I believe that was a 6/8. That one will be very aggressive. I don't know how they'll work, but you get something new like this, you got to play around with it. And so anyhow, some of the features on this is pretty good. What you have, on this saw that I didn't have on the other saw, you have a hydraulic control over there, and you can see I can get the saw setting up. And now what you have is, you have down here, you have a coolant, tank on this. I think it's about a 2.5 gallon, if I remember right, tank. And you got your on switch with your automatic shut off over here. This is a 7x12, so it has a lot more capacity. The other thing that's nice is this blade is a 3/4 inch blade, and it's a little thicker. And the little saw that we had, you can, from the previous videos, you know, we've had trouble with the blades breaking quite often. Sometimes I'd buy a brand new blade, and I'd get 2 or 3 cuts, and then the blade would break. I plan on doing a video here in the near future showing making a welding fixture, or not a welding, but a silver solder fixture for repairing those kind of blades, because we'll still a lot of life in them. But anyhow, this is our newest edition. It will probably be the workhorse when it comes to sawing, because it's a bigger saw. It's got a 1-horse motor. It's got a 93-inch blade. And that's the other thing that I've seen too. When you're ordering blades, there's a lot of them in that 93 range. The one that came with it is 93 3/8. And so they have up here, they have a tension meter. Well, this would probably be accurate for the 93 3/8, but because I'm using a smaller one, it's off a little bit. But once you get your tension and you get it set right, you can just kind of do a mental picture of where it's at, and when you put your blades on there, you're good. So you want them tight enough that they don't slip and fall off, but you don't want them so tight that they're bending the frame there a little bit, and you have breakage on your blades. Other nice feature this has, it has a wheel that knocks some of the chips off. But let me go back with the coolant. You have a switch where you can turn the coolant off, you can turn it on. And when I first ran this, I thought, well, okay, that's going to be kind of a pain. You're turning your saw on, then you're turning your coolant. But this switch actually powers that switch. So if I got the coolant on, you can see it comes out just by turning this, because this actually powers that. I can leave the coolant switch on. But if you're cutting like D2, one mistake people make with D2, you don't want to use coolant cutting D2. You will start getting some spots in that steel that will harden up. The blade will just sit there. If you ever cut D2 and you're cutting it wet and you have a problem, try cutting it dry. You'll find out that it cuts much better. So it's kind of nice that you have a coolant switch that's controlled with over here, but you also can turn the coolant totally off over there when you're in the cut. So I cut just a few pieces with this. Let me pull this up all the way. The other feature I like on here is this right here. You loosen this, and now I can slide this in and out. Slide it up like so, and it tightens down, so it's a very quick adjust. Now, some of the modifications that I've made on our smaller saw, we'll be keeping that. Some of the modifications, I'll be doing similar modifications for this saw too. So I'm going to have to get in the way of the camera a minute here. Yeah, so far I'm real happy with it. It cuts nice. I'll just stop that right there at this point. No sense in boring you to death there. Just to show you some other features, you can turn this upright. And one of the things you can do is you can replace this little pad with this pad, and now you got kind of a regular bandsaw. Now this it'll work. It's kind of a you know, flimsy. On my smaller saw, I made a pad out of a 1/4 inch hot roll steel. I'll be doing the same on this over here. You got some a couple screws over here that you got to take out, and this is so that you can move the guard back. And when I was going to change the wheel, I thought, whoa, they messed up. We got interference here. And I started looking at the guard down here. There's no way that you're going to open this up. When I started looking at this closer, I found out it was my ignorance, because what they have is that slides up, and now you can open all the way up. So when I changed the first blade, I actually pulled the hinges off over there and changed the blade that way. So anyhow, that was kind of a nice feature over there too. So it just protects the blade all the way, protects you from the blade. So it's a real easy to change your blades. Now this saw's quite heavy, and we went in Adam's van to pick the thing up, and because of the way his van's designed, wasn't a lot of room there. So when we was at Harbor Freight, two excellent workers there. One was the manager John and the supervisor Nick. They gave us some help, and we didn't have a truck available or anything like that, and they didn't have shipping. So we measured everything out, and this thing is boxed up really nice. But it was sitting on some 2x4s on the bottom, on the uprights, and we figured that if we'd remove those, and then it'd fit in the car. So they got out some hammers, and they removed them bottom boards, and they helped us get it loaded in there, and they were very helpful. And so that's a Holland Harbor Freight, and that have service like that. Just a big thanks to John and Nick for all the help of getting this here. We told them that we would be making a video on that, and showing the saw off. You know, there's some things that might be a little bit cheap, like this. It's kind of chintzy, but that's no big deal. I can buy those at a hardware store, replace that without any problem. One of the other things that I think I might do is, if cat comes on this side, just something that I'll do probably in the near future. You got to remove the 2 screws over here in order to take that guard off. What I think I'm going to do is get some wing nuts to put in there, so I don't have to hunt down a screwdriver all the time to do it. So there might be a few minor things, but overall I like that saw so far. Just taking a couple cuts with it, and it cuts real well. And here's the last piece that I cut off that block, right out of the box. We're 229, 230, 231, 229 and a half. And then in this corner we're about 220, yeah, 221. So you're within a 10,000ths cutting over there. 3 of the corners are right on. Just have a little bit on the one corner. So I'm happy with it. And you can adjust that if you want to get closer and fiddle around with it. You can adjust that a little bit as well. But it's got a nice work stop where you can flip up if you're cutting stuff off to the same lengths. Got a real nice stop on there that you can use. Got a nice adjustment sitting on there for the distance that the blade comes down. And so you'll see this saw in some of the fixturing we do for it in the future. You'll see it quite a bit. I guess one of the announcements I want to make, just some changes that has taken place with me that will be a benefit for Solid Rock, is I just changed jobs about 6 weeks ago. And in fact, by changing the job, I just went ahead and took my 401k. I didn't have much in there, so that's where the money for the saw came out. I used part of that to buy the saw. But no real complaints about the previous job. They've been good to me for the most part, but the company was just taking a direction that I just wasn't happy with, and there's another company in the Zeeling area, True Dye, and that's where I'm working right now. And I like the direction of that company. I think there's so much potential there. I'm working on Sodic wire burners. Have a man that's training me that he's really good on them, very helpful. Really appreciate his training. All the guys that I've met that work there, it's super nice. The environment, I tell you, it's one of the best environments I think I've ever worked in. I have absolutely no regrets. I love it there. And one of the things that's going to be of a benefit for solid rock is I'm going to be working a weekend shift. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to maximize the machine usage. They have a lot of CNC equipment in that shop. And with that CNC equipment, it only makes money while it's running. And so if you, they've been trying with the third shift, but it's hard, and anybody that's in business, it's hard getting people on third shift. And it's hard on people. In fact, most of my life I worked third shift. The issue with third shift, I kind of had the same experience I have with women, is that I liked the third shift, but the third shift didn't like me. So I finally had to give that up. But anyways, I'll be working a weekend shift, so I'll be working 3 days on the weekend, and that way they can be another man working with me on the weekend, and they'll probably build that up. So they got some nice benefits for that. But anyhow, that's going to free me up a couple more days that I can work at Solid Rock. I got a lot of projects. I'm way behind. I got so much things I got to get done. And when I'm working full weeks, 5 8-hour or more days like I have for years, there's just not a lot of time left over. So we'll be working a little bit longer days on the weekends, but now I'm going to have some free time. So I'll be working 3 days. We'll have the 4 days off. I can have one down day if I want, but I should be able to focus at least a good 3 days on Solid Rock stuff, and hopefully we can get ahead on some of these projects, and so it's going to be a big plus. But the new job I have, just want to let everybody know that those are some of the changes we got, but that new job, I love it there. Everything's great. I used to work with a couple of the people over there. It's nice to be back with them again. So anyhow, those are some of the changes that we have. And this will probably be the last video. We might squeeze in one more, but it might be the last one until the Barzee Summer Bash that we're looking forward to going to. Last year we drove from Holland, Michigan all the way there. The kids like the road trip to sites. So we'll be driving again this year. They got some places they want to stop, and then I think we're going to spend 1 or 2 days at some new friends in Arizona on the way back. So anyhow, this may be the last video until after the bash. We'll see.
Jeremiah's coming with us.
Oh, and then that's the other thing, Kat. Just one of my other sons, he's going to be coming. Jeremiah, he'll be coming with us to the bash this year. So Michael and Jared and a few of the other kids, they'll be staying home with Mom. And so anyways, for all of you that are going to be going to the bash, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there. And made a lot of new friends over the YouTube and Instagram. And I tell you what, it's a great community, and I'm excited about that too. And I'm really appreciate Stan for putting on this event. For all the sponsors that they have. I know American Rotary is one of them. I got one of their generators, and I love it. I tell you what, if you need three-phase power, you need to check them out. I did a lot of research before I bought mine, and I'm not getting any discount or anything. I bought mine before I even attended one of Stan's events, and love it. So it's a good quality product. So if you need three-phase power, be sure to check American Rotary out. And so we'll hopefully see a bunch of you guys over at the Barzee Bash. And until then, we're signing out now. We'll see you next time.